Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take your sources, boil them down, and pull out the key insights. Today, we're diving deep into discerning divine design in a dynamic world. Our goal, to look past the sort of surface-level headlines from June 23rd, 2025, see if there are, deeper patterns happening.
Exactly. Yeah, we're not trying to predict the future here. No, not at all. It's more about looking at what's happening now through the lens of, timeless truths.
Yeah.
About human nature, divine influence, trying to find that coherence, that maybe intention in events that seem kind of disconnected.
Right. And for this deep dive, we've got quite a mix of sources, 7 specific biblical passages.
Yeah.
Exodus 24.1, 1 Peter 3.6, Judges 17.6, 1 John 2.29, 1 Samuel 8.5, 2 Corinthians 12.9, and Joshua 7.2. And we're kind of putting them side by side with what's going on today, geopolitics, the economy, society, tech, environment. Okay, so let's get into it. The first big thing that really jumps out is this constant push and pull, right? Between human independence, wanting to do our own thing, and divine sovereignty. Like when Judges 17.6 says, everyone did what was right in his own eyes. During a pretty chaotic time, mind you. Or in 1 Samuel 8.5, where ancient Israel basically says, no thanks to God's direct rule, they want a human king like all the nations. How does that echo today?
Oh, it's striking. It really is. Those ancient patterns, they just show up so clearly now. Globally, your sources talk about these G0 wins, this idea of a world with no single leader, where it's basically every nation for itself.
Yeah, that me-first thinking.
Exactly. A real me-first mentality, and you see the results. Less cooperation, a move away from, rule of law towards what one source calls rule of a man. Even take the U.S. strikes on Iran's nuclear sites that your sources mentioned. The way they describe the tactics, political and military ruses, a fake-out, it kind of highlights this reliance on human cleverness, maybe manipulation, instead of shared values. And this global sort of moral ambiguity, it's not just theoretical. It has real economic costs, measurable ones, and it fuels conflict, fragmentation. It's all connected.
Okay, building on that then.
Yeah.
The sources also bring up this interesting paradox, strength found in weakness. And also, the flip side, the danger of getting too confident. Paul in 2 Corinthians 12.9 talks about God's power being made perfect in weakness.
Right.
But then you have Joshua 7.2, where overconfidence after a win leads straight to defeat because they ignored divine guidance.
Yeah.
How's that playing out now?
It's almost uncanny, isn't it? Like human nature just keeps repeating these same errors, just, bigger on a global stage. Think about the climate crisis. Your sources mention record emissions, exceeded planetary boundaries. It's a huge glaring example of our collective weakness, actually.
Despite all our tech.
Exactly. Despite all the technology, all the plans, we're clearly struggling. One of your articles even detailed this case. A big tech company, right? Ignored clear warnings, went for a risky strategy out of self-interest, and it blew up in their face. Just like that Joshua story.
Wow.
And you see it in geopolitics, too. These interlinked conflicts, the constant risk of miscalculation, it just underscores our limits. We assume we've got it figured out, and then, bam, unintended consequences, often pretty serious ones.
That really lands. So, okay, with all this going on, this moral confusion, reality itself getting blurred, what about our own character, our own actions? You've got sources mentioning deep fakes, synthetic realities, making it hard to tell what's even real anymore. Personal data is just a commodity.
Yeah, it's a huge challenge.
So how do passages like 1 Peter 3.6, focusing on inner character, and 1 John 2.29 about actually practicing righteousness, how do they guide us through this landscape?
Well, this digital world, it definitely puts our discernment to the test, doesn't it? When you can't easily verify information, when identities can be, as one source put it, boundless, just fabricated, then choosing to live rightly with integrity, that becomes, it's almost a radical act. It goes against the grain. There's this interesting point in one article, too, this hunger for authenticity. Even with all the curated perfection online, people are craving something real, unfiltered.
You see that, yeah.
The desire is there, absolutely. But the ways people are seeking it often don't lead to that deep, genuine transformation that Peter and John are talking about. It stays superficial.
So wrapping this up then, what's the takeaway? We see all this chaos, these human patterns repeating, but then this Exodus 24.11, it shows God still wanting that closeness, that fellowship, offering grace. Does the brokenness we see actually point towards our need for that connection?
I think it absolutely does. The design we're discerning here, it's not about predicting tomorrow's headlines. It's about seeing how consistently things align with these timeless principles. Yeah. About human nature, about what happens when we rely only on ourselves. The challenges we see reflected in the news from June 23rd, 2025, they inherently, almost inevitably, point toward needing something more, something transcendent.
Precisely. So even with all the instability, the core message, the invitation, it hasn't changed. So the question for you listening is, how does recognizing these consistent patterns in humanity and that consistent divine invocation maybe shift how you look at what's happening in the world today? Something to think about as you continue your own deep dive.